from airing grievances with individual members of the school community, including respecting the privacy of students and parents. Those attending remotely may type their full name in the comments section if they wish. During the meeting, comments may be disabled. And the limit to speak is 2 minutes. Mr. Bryce, if you would like to go ahead and, Jason Bryce?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I had written a letter to the school board last week and had sent it into Mrs. Malbuff and was making sure that that got sent. I didn't get a response to that letter. I just had a couple of questions. I know this is really not an interaction, but in your email, you stated that 78% of the student body was in favor of flying the BLM flag at the Maple Run district, which I'm not opposed to, but asking my nephew, who is part African-American, who goes to BFA, and asked him if he was even asked the question about it, and he said no. So either the question wasn't asked to the entire student body, or it was. And I didn't know if there's any way that we could find that information out. And two, I just want to know why this organization was put ahead of other organizations that could be supported at the school. And was there any way that other organizations could have their flag flown as well? I am retired military, and I know that there are a lot of military members still in this community. And why wasn't the Green Mountain Boy flag flown in support of all the families of deployed soldiers? And then I guess in closing, I just want to know why the board voted unanimously for this act when schools are supposedly teaching kindness and understanding and other things, and leaders of this movement have been quoted saying, "Please Allah, give me the strength not to kill these white men and white folks out here." I find that to be extremely dangerous and racist, and I don't find that inclusive. And I think that's what we're trying to do as a community, and I just don't see it. And finally, if you're going to fly a flag, you should fly them all. If you're not going to fly any, then don't. But you can't pick and choose which organizations you want to fly just because it's popular. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Bryce. Anybody else online like to speak? All right. Consent agenda. Anybody looking to approve the minutes in the media packet? Anybody want to pull to make any changes? Okay. No opposition. These will be accepted. Reports to the board. Leah, we're going to have you go first.
All right. So starting out, we are wrapping up the school year, which is very fun and exciting for everyone. We'd like to congratulate all the sports this year. The track team did exceptional this year, as well as the BFA girls lacrosse team won the state championship this year. Also, congratulations to BFA Softball Comets for having such an amazing year. Drama, theater, and dance did their awards this year as well, or at the end of the year to wrap everything up. And of course, we had our graduation, which was an amazing day, an amazing thing for all the seniors. So congrats to the class of 2022. We also like to say thank you to all the teachers that are retiring this year, Mr. Fugere, Mr. Capsby, and Mr. Raymond. Huge thank you to them. We're very excited to have a bunch of new teachers coming in next year as well, as to welcome all the new students that are coming. BFA is excited to offer recovery classes for students this year that need extra credit. as well as academy breakout classes to all students that want to do like extracurriculars or activities over the summer, which is really fun. And I think overall students are really excited to come back next year and have a completely normal year and not deal with all the COVID and start off with a really good start. So we are very excited to end the year, and I think that's shown throughout the school. That is my report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everything, and welcome. Officially have your name tag there, so. And my bad here, Brett, I'm sorry, I totally skipped over you. Thank you for having us, appreciate it, and thank you for hosting this time. I don't know if you want to say anything?
Well, I'd like several things. One, Leah has a name tag. I don't. Two, I'm actually sitting behind her. Three, you asked me after her.
I know, I'm sorry, it's my bad,
No,
my
actually,
bad, my bad.
By the way, I will defer to her from now on. I'd just like to welcome everybody. Really, it's nice to have the first and last, I guess, meeting of 2022 here. And if you walk through the connector, I always love seeing the artwork that's turning over. We do have a faculty member that's going to be doing arts integration and some art update throughout the building next year. Excited about that. And I don't know, I'll let Leah talk from here on out.
Well, thank
And
you.
we will introduce, Sarah's also joined us.
I was just going to ask
tonight.
if, yep. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
thrilled to
welcome,
have
Sarah.
her here. I know we're still working on the process of the student representation, student board leadership. We will be having other students coming also, so we'll keep those updated. We're still meeting on Wednesdays and kind of plowing through that. We're constantly discussing the topic of how do we get the diversity into it. By the way, we discussed why that's multifaceted, the issue of diversity. So, great discussions actually, and I look forward to Sarah or Leah giving you updates.
Thank you,
We're
Brett.
excited to be here.
Yep.
I also wanted to say Comet Hockey. They were champions too.
Yes.
Right.
Don't forget
Over
that.
the whole year.
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Sorry. Glasses would help. Reports to the board. Continue the NCTC CLNA Perkins. Leanne.
Yes, we have a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if you're comfortable with us being here, or if you would like us to stand.
I would ask you to be by a mic at least, so the people on Zoom land can hear you.
Great.
Thank you.
I'll have it on the screen in just 1 second, okay?
Does it have to be real close?
No, I think it picks it up pretty well, right wherever you have it.
Feels like karaoke. Which I'd rather
I
be
was
doing.
wondering if you were going to.
So, it's nice to see everybody in person. My name is Leanne Wright, and I'm also here with Lisa DeRocher. We are the school administrators for Northwest Career and Technical Center. And you'll be hearing from us every 2 years. We haven't had an opportunity to present to the board until now, but at the very minimum, you'll hear from us every 2 years. Tonight, we're going to be talking to you about Perkins 5. Perkins 5 is basically federal investments in career and technical education. And I'm going to be taking my glasses on and off. I'm at that age, just so I point that out. So the federal investments in career and tech ed was otherwise known as the Carl D. Perkins. And so Martha back there has helped me work with Perkins in the past. And the Carl D. Perkins has then transferred to the Perkins 5, which is Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. It was signed into law in 2019. Why do you need to know that? You need to know that because in 2020 was when we needed to begin working on the Perkins 5, and of course we all know what happened in 2020. They gave us a bye for the school year 2020 to 2022, and I'm here now to talk to you about the joys of Perkins. So if you could hit the next slide, that would be great. And I'm going to work really hard not to read from the slides and just give you pertinent information because you can all read it. So what is Perkins? So those top bullets there will tell you what it is. The federal investments, which I just talked about, It's requiring us to align our programs that we have, and we have 10 programs currently, with our labor market. So all of the business and industry in our area want our students when they graduate, either graduate from high school or graduate from college. So it's important for us to make sure we hear their feedback. The supports between the supports and the collaboration and the coordination and partnerships, and those happen with my sending schools. So we have 2 sending schools. One is BFA, the other is MVU, and we have other schools that send their students to us. If they have a sending technical center who doesn't offer a program that their student wants to take, and we do, then they can come to us. Strengthening and improving the quality of secondary and post-secondary CTE, so federal money does go to post-secondary as well. And what's very new this year is prioritizing the supports for the vulnerable populations, and you'll see all the lists of special populations there, making sure they have equal opportunity. So these are the 5 goals on how we're going to achieve this. So a lot of these pieces are repetitive. So again, the collaboration and coordination between the stakeholders, and you all are considered stakeholders. So you are board, and we also have a regional advisory board that I share with Cold Hollow Career Center. And it's important that we hear from you on what you think Northwest Career Technical Center should do or what we should stop doing. High quality and aligned programs. So currently working with the Agency of Education, they have dictated what the standards are and what we should have our staff have within their standards. So that's all across Vermont. We'll be adopting those this year of August. Improving the public perception. So that's something that we've battled for years. Years ago we were known as vocational education. We have rebranded ourselves to be career and technical education. We have students that go to college that attend technical centers, and we have students that leave with industry recognized credentials. Industry as a partner is pretty self-explanatory, and then the career advising systems. So really focusing on a career advising system that's from 7th grade through 14th. And I say 14th because 2 years post-secondary is key. So making sure that the 7th and 8th graders know who we are and what we do, and then making sure that they have the classes in order to enter our programs. So for example, in medical professions, you must have biology before you enter the junior year. So that's an important class to have because it's science-based within the medical professions. So collecting all of that data is hard work, and it is called the Community Local Needs Assessment. So this has been quite a bit of work that we've been doing for the last school year. It's required us to survey a lot of our stakeholders. It has required us to get input from staff, from our sending schools, and we're using data. The Agency of Education is very specific about us using data to make decisions, which I don't think anyone in this room would deny is important. If you look at the 6 areas there, those are the components of the Community Local Needs Assessment that we have been focusing on for the last school year, and getting the data to make sure that we know what we need to deliver for the next 2 years. And I'm not going to read those because we're going to go in some pretty deep explanations coming up. So the Agency of Education has determined that we need to be accountable, and we're okay with that. So these are the indicators in which we are accountable to. You will notice after each indicator, so for example, the graduation rate, the state target is in parentheses there, and how we fared, how Northwest Career Tech Center fared, is the number right afterwards. So I'll just give you a minute to look that over. You'll notice in the gold there, we are not meeting the state target in ELA. ELA is English Language Arts. So we've got some work to do there. Part of how students are assessed on whether they're meeting the state target is through an assessment called Work Keys. Work Keys is an assessment that's mandated by the state. All career tech ed centers deliver it to their students in English Language Arts and in math. And they have an opportunity to score a level 5, 6, or 7. And when they score a 5, 6, or 7 on the 2 assessments, which is the math and the literacy, they have an opportunity, they get rewarded for passing, right? They get to take a third test, and that third test is graphic literacy. Once they pass all 3 of those assessments, then that is considered an industry recognized credential. And they get 2 college credits from CCU that's transferable as an elective credit. Make sure I didn't miss anything here. I wanted to note that the science assessment here, looking to see where that is at the very bottom. So that science assessment is the Vermont assessment that students take when they're an 11th grader in their sending school. And so that is where that's administered. All right. And another piece to take it from here. Oh, pardon me?
Yes, I'm Lisa DeRocher, I'm the Assistant Director, and I'll be talking about the next 2 slides. So what Leanne was just talking about are the accountability measures that the state is measuring us against and how we're supposed to be performing at a state level. So the other piece that she mentioned was the special populations. So this particular sheet shows the areas where we need to focus in more on in terms of the special populations. So you'll see the boxes with the yellow in it. So the yellow in it are the specific target groups that do require additional attention. And the additional attention are in the areas of math and science. Now the last piece is non-traditional. So we have programs that are considered non-traditional. So for instance, in automotive, there's not a lot of females. In building trades, engineering, public safety, and culinary, there's not a lot of females in those industries. So those are considered non-traditional groups. So as you can see, for the males, we have 7.14%, meaning that we are not meeting the state requirement of 11.94% of males in our non-traditional programs. And the non-traditional programs for males is medical professions and human services. And as you can see, the last 3 columns, we have the special populations, and those are the individuals with disabilities, the economically disadvantaged, and, as I mentioned, students in non-traditional fields. And those are zeroed in on math. So that's another area that we've identified a need in. So the 0% under non-traditional fields means that all of the students that are considered non-traditional students did not meet a proficiency level in math based on the work keys assessment that was administered. Okay. The next slide is to just pull all of this together. We tried to create a visual to show all of the areas that we need to focus on, and then the lines in blue below is going to be our action plan. It's what we have to work on for the next 2 years. And it's pretty high level, and of course there's a lot of action items that'll go into it, but the top 4 is to adopt the Work Keys online curriculum. And it's actually, we're told that we have to adopt the Work Keys online curriculum from Agency of Education to help our students work more on the math and the English language assessments. And then we're going to dive deeper into the diagnostics of what do these scores mean. All of the tech centers just started doing the Work Keys assessments. So we're all finally trying to learn, what does it mean when you score a 3? What does it mean when you score a 7? What do we have to do from an instructional perspective? And then the other piece is, once you identify that, is we really have to realign our curriculum, make some adjustments, and then build some community practices in terms of strengthening the math and the ELA. And then the other piece, and a tech center a while ago did this, is an equity audit of all the non-traditional programs. So for instance, if you walk into a cosmetology program, what kind of feel does it have? Is it going to have a feel that will be attractive both to males and females, or primarily to the female population? So we're going to be looking into that. Anything?
So we're going to break apart those 6 components that we talked about earlier, and Lisa just did that with the student performance and the accountability measures. I'm going to move you on to the size, scope, and quality. And that is looking specifically at our individual programs. and our school. So size is an example of that, is looking at the number of programs that we have within our school. We must have a minimum of 3 programs. We have 10, so we're good there. Another example of size is making sure that there's a minimum number of students within the programs, and that minimum number is 7. It seems kind of low. We are on waiting lists in many of our programs, luckily. The scope is curricular considerations. So exactly what Lisa said, there's some areas within our programs that need support around the scope and the curricular considerations. And then the quality is, how are students attaining? Are they earning industry recognized credentials? Are they earning post-secondary college credit? And are they attaining on the active placer assessments? Not active placer, work keys. That was 3 years ago. The next piece is the recruitment and retention of our staff. So we all know how important it is to have great teachers in our school, and we luckily have had very low turnover in our school. How do we recruit? Well, it's kind of tough right now in the world of COVID. You probably have heard all over the nation, and specifically here in Franklin County and Vermont, that it's tough to get employees. We have been advertising for a building trades instructor all year. We've been advertising for a driver's ed instructor all year, and there's very, very low applicants. And so it's been a challenge, and we're hoping that's going to improve. The retention of our staff, we feel, has been positive. We have all new staff that come to the Northwest Career and Tech Center don't necessarily have their teaching degree or their teaching certification. They have industry experience. And so what we have set up through VTC is a teacher prep program for all Vermont Career and Tech Ed centers, where new teachers go to a boot camp in August for 2 weeks to sort of get the highs and lows of being a new teacher, and then they work with instructors and the director to make sure that they take all of the courses that are needed, understanding classroom management, understanding methods within classes, and how to write curriculum. And so that's a 4-year process for these new staff members.
This is my last slide. We have a wrap up. So these last 3 components are from the CLNA, and again, as Leanne was saying, we have done work all year long, we meaning staff and faculty, all year long in all 6 of these areas to collect copious amounts of data. So the last 3 is the program of study. So the program of study, we really need to work with our middle schools as well as our post-secondary institutions to identify sequencing. So if you're in 7th grade and maybe you're interested in becoming an engineer, well, what is the pathway to becoming an engineer? What kinds of trainings, what kind of certifications can you earn? And of course, as in 7th grade, you may change your mind when you get into 9th grade, and may change your mind when you get into 12th grade, but that's what the pathways are there for. So that's what we all need to work on in the state, is to have a really tight program of study. The other piece is the alignment to the labor market information. So the Agency of Education did some cursory investigations in terms of does the program match the industry needs? And so then they submitted a report to each tech center identifying all of the programs and if they met the labor market needs or not. So we had one program where they said it did not meet the market needs, and we had 3 others that said maybe. The one that said no was cosmetology. So what they did is they provided us a structure for us to dive deeper into that industry to convince them that cosmetology is a viable program to continue because it does meet the labor market demand, which is high wage, high skill, high demand. So we did a lot of work on that, and we worked with an economist at the Department of Labor who was fantastic, and we were able to build the report and submit that for approval. And the cosmetology program, we're happy to say, is going to be offering all the hours that you need in order to sit for your exam. So you don't have to leave the tech center, then go to a post-secondary institution and spend over $16,000 to $18,000. So it's a really nice savings. The other 3 programs that were considered maybe were digital media, public safety, and culinary. So again, we worked with the same economist, and then again, we worked within the structure that the AOE gave us to develop a report to identify how this does meet high skill, high wage, high demand. So we were successful in submitting that as well. And then the last piece is access, equal access. And we talked about that in the previous slide in terms of non-traditional and special populations. So we really want to keep mindful of that through our career advising and through our acceptance process, that we're not creating any perceived or actual barriers. That's it.
Home stretch. So what kind of money are we talking about? Last year for FY22, Northwest Career and Tech Center received $265,000 and some change. So quite a bit of money, and well worth all of the work that it takes to get this done. And these are the items that we spent money on for the investments for Northwest Career and Tech Center. So credentialing of the Tier 2 IRCs. The Tier 2 IRCs are credentials of value that business and industry acknowledge as high skill. And those are things like automotive service excellent, serve safe and culinary, lots of different examples that are costly. Also, the technical skill attainment that goes with learning that credential can be costly as well. So making sure that we have all of the expensive things that are involved in career tech ed, that we have that available. The local budget can't sustain, 6 automotive lifts and a truck in building trades, and all of the expenses that are associated with career tech ed. We spent money on professional development and integrated academics and career advising. And so the next slide will tell you what we have for this year. It's actually a little bit lower, or a lot bit lower, and the amount of money is based on the census and the poverty level. So we can assume that students coming to the tech center are less poor than they were last year based on that number. And again, pretty consistent consistent expenses that we're spending our money on. Credentialing, again, professional development, which also includes the Vermont Teacher Prep Program that I told you about. So that's an expense that is part of that, along with our own staff professional development, integrated academics, and then the career advising. And we'll resubmit this in 2 years. So that amount of money is every year that we get until we reauthorize, reassess, resubmit. We're happy to take questions. That's a lot of information.
The integrated academics, is that where you have, like I know that one of the math teachers was going into one of the tech programs and doing math along with it. Is that what you're talking
That's
about?
exactly what that is. So currently, we're paying for part of a salary of a teacher that integrates math into outdoor technology. And we have part of a salary that there's no salary that's part of the Perkins funding that is, we have geometry and construction that's paid for by the local budget. So it's the geometry part matches with construction.
And do you have any hands-on learning like that with ELA?
Yes, and I say that hesitantly because we have integrated English, and so the integrated English teacher is not in every program. He is in 2 programs, and the content that he brings into those programs is supportive of what they're learning. So currently the integrated English is in medical professions and human services, and so the books that they read are very geared towards the content of that career, of that focus. And he and the teachers work together to create the lessons that are engaging, and I hesitate with the hands-on because not always, but yes.
But still adaptable or applicable to what
Correct.
they're learning.
Yes.
But not necessarily for the tests that they have to take.
Right.
You mentioned that they set pathways when the student assumes they might want to head in a particular direction. I'm assuming those are broad-based, so when they inevitably change their mind, they haven't committed a whole bunch of time. Okay, thank you.
And there's always an exit for us. We think it's a good thing if a student comes into our technical center and they decide after a year, this isn't for me, because then they will have saved themselves time and potentially money going into post-secondary.
Thank you.
Yes.
Regarding the non-traditional, is the participation of male, female in different professions similar to what's out in our community, like what, what's reflective of,
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't done an audit to find out if it mirrors industry. That is something that we can absolutely add to our list of things to do, because that would be interesting data. Yeah. I can give you some anecdotal thoughts on my end, but nothing to prove it.
right.
I was just going to ask, kind of piggyback on what Jack was just saying, in terms of back to the ELA piece. So you received the indicators. Do you have any insight as to where the gaps are and what the plans are to?
That's our work coming up.
That's your
Sorry,
work
I didn't
coming
mean to
up.
cut you off.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
I knew where you were going. So that's our work for next year. So we don't have
Okay.
the diagnostics yet of these assessments. This is only year 2 of us administering it, and also having AOE and the work keys administrators dance the dance with us to align the data so that we get it in a timely fashion. But that's the work we need to do.
Okay.
And the work that our staff needs to do to figure out where are the needs.
Yeah.
The other question I have is the areas where we're lower in test scores, supposedly. I noticed the state is also low in those areas. So is the state explaining what they're going to do statewide to improve the performance in those areas?
They support. They're really good at giving us ideas on what we can do to improve. One of the things is WorkKeys curriculum that's going to be online curriculum that our staff can access. We'll work with our staff because it's important to have the buy-in from our staff that want to integrate the English and the math into their programs. Because oftentimes, there's so much time in a day where they want to do what they want to do within their program that's content specific, and sometimes the math and the ELA feels like it's an aside. So trying to work with our staff to try to figure out how we can do really good for both.
Anybody else?
Is there a general sort of consensus among all the instructors that the math and ELA truly is value add? Or is it just something they have to do in order to maintain this accreditation, whereas the program would be better off if they had a more focused approach that focused better on skills?
I think our staff would love to have students come into the program with the skills already, like any teacher, and they are open to giving students what they need when they need it. And with the support of the specialists.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
We have a deadline for this grant, so if it's okay, Lisa's going to make her way out and I'll stay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. All right. 6B, Facilities Part 2. Bill?
Yep. So as you all recall, last fall we came to you with a facilities plan for Maple Run. And I said at that time we'd be coming back to talk with you about ESSER funding opportunities and how we could put that together combined with some of our capital funds. So tonight I wanted to give you, I'm going to put the presentation up there, but I'll probably say a short thing for each slide. So if I'm going too fast, slow me down. I don't want to try to stay here. You can all read the PowerPoint. But really it's about, I want to give you some information tonight, have time to talk about it in July and August. For us to submit to the next step of submittal to get ESSER approval, we'll need this board to adopt where we're going with this overall plan of facilities work. So for the ESSER part, not the overall capital plan, but to adopt what I'm presenting you tonight. And we can talk about that. So I'm trying to give you plenty of time to think about that as a board and have discussions as well. And realizing the time we're at right now. So John, if you can go on to the next one, I'm going to tell you a little bit about, just review a little bit, quick overview of the facilities plan you saw in October, what ESSER can support for health and safety, the plans at each campus, and then the funding proposal for how we can make this work. And I think we can, if we leverage our capital plan and the ESSER funds, we can actually get a lot more done together. But there's some things that we need to do with our capital plans because they're not allowable costs within ESSER. So if you can go on to the next slide, John. Hunter was here, Hunter Gomez was here from Peterson Consultants, and unfortunately Hunter's moved on, but they have Marty Spalding, who's been the facilities director at Burlington, has joined the firm, so he's been an excellent addition and helping us do this work. But in that plan that you saw last year was a total of about $25 million worth of work. And here's just a rough outlay of some of the big ticket items, the estimated cost, and the total square feet of each building. I'm not going to go through that again. That was in the last presentation. Like I said, stop me if I'm going too fast, but I'm just going to go on to the next slide. So when we looked at it, and we put in a 3% rate of inflation, that was back in October. Knowing today, I think, knowing what's happening with construction costs, just seeing what we're trying to get done this summer that's already on the books, we're going to have to change that. But that gave us a total cost of $25 million. And that, as you recall, that didn't take care of some big ticket items. Didn't have any structural work in it or roof work in it. But our roofs are in pretty good shape. As soon as we finish the one above our head right here, which is being done, should be finished in the next week. And you approve that. So that's an average annual cost of $1.25 million a year. ESSER, the next one, the ESSER funding. ESSER, as you may recall, and John talked to you about this earlier, and we need to get you an update about where we are with ESSER work. But we were awarded approximately $13 million worth of ESSER funding. There are 3 different grants that make up the ESSER grants, but I'm just trying to consolidate. There are 3 main areas that the state and the feds asked us to work in, which is health, safety, and wellness, engagement and attendance, and academic achievement. All this building work is under the health and safety pieces. And so it's basically for measures that can help mitigate COVID or other health concerns or other safety concerns. Another safety concern, for example, would be accessibility. We have parts of this building that are not accessible by code. It doesn't mean kids that have accessibility issues can't get there, but by code, I would tell you the whole 3rd floor of the original BFA building right now, there isn't an accessible classroom up there. That doesn't mean kids can't get in there that have accessibility issues. It's literally the 18 inches the door is set in, and they have to swing the other way. We're taking care of that hopefully with the bond money that we have to pull those doors out and have them swing out to the hallways. So there's things like that with code that I don't want to alarm area that we don't have accessibility. It's by code, so I want to use those words very deliberately. So allowable uses, as you can see, are health and safety concerns. I just did one. HVAC is one of the majors. I think we've all heard that through all the COVID work. We have parts of buildings that are using gravity flow for our HVAC. And you would say, Bill, what's that mean? And the old physics teacher in me would say, that's, I just lost my word, but it's convection, where we've got the hot air will rise up through chimneys in old buildings, in old ducts, and you have to open the window to get the air in to make that work. And that's the way you ventilate. That's the way the old original building for BFA ventilates today. So we have a lot of work. We have a lot of HVAC issues across the system. Windows and doors are part of that to keep water out of the building. That's something that's been identified. And then if we needed extra space due to COVID for physical spaces. What is it you may remember from the capital plan, all the facilities directors got together, toured all the buildings, looked at everything, and then did assessment themselves of what their priorities were across. And as you remember awarding earlier this year the boiler at Fairfield, that was the #1 concern, we had a leaking boiler into the building, which we had stopped temporarily but needed to be fixed. So we've identified the projects. We had applied for conceptual approval through the Agency of Education. We've been approved. In concept, they like the ideas. It's a couple paragraphs for each campus. What are you trying to do? And a proposed estimated budget. The one campus that didn't get approved was Collins Pearly, because there's a lot of questions from them whether the school district owns Collins Pearly, which we do, we've approved, but it was one of those things where it was easier to shift that money to the actual school buildings, since we were going to use some capital fund money, and use capital fund money solely at Collins Pearly. And also in the budget, in ESSER, we can't use any of this for central office, and central office is another place where we have, the only place there's ventilation in the central office is the boardroom. There isn't anywhere else in that building. And that building has a lot of severe issues to it. So the next piece is we go through the design and bid process, which we're doing right now. We'll have to get approval as a review, and then that goes to AOE for approval, and once it's approved there. List of improvements, I'm not going to go through all of these, but just here at BFA, you can see we're going to do almost $1.9 million worth of work ESSER will fund, and about almost $700,000 from the capital budget. But you can see things like a lot of HVAC, and the whole original high school needs to be done. We can do that really well and bring air conditioning in with not much extra cost. It's amazing that to cool the building is that much extra cost. It's all the ducts and air handling units we need to bring in. Replace all the windows in this building were taken out of the bond vote, and they're leaking severely. So we're concerned that, and we don't think we do, but we're concerned what might be in the walls, and we had to open up one during construction the first year. We didn't find any mold or mildew, but we're really concerned with water infiltration in the building, and we're seeing disrepair. We see the brick cracking on the outside of this building. And if you look at the southwest corner, this corner down here by the stairwell, you'll see it starting to separate from the building. So we need to fix things like that. Insulation in both north and south way, and you see the new brick improvements. Next, we would go to Collins Pearly. A lot of what we need there is HVAC. There's backup generator, but we're talking with Green Mountain Power and others about maybe a grant possibility as a evacuation center. Collins Pearly, as we all know, has been used for that, but having a generator there is something they don't have. And as I said, we took that out of ESSER, so that would be about $1 million to the capital. The next one, Fairfield Center. There's a lot of HVAC issues up there, especially in the 64, the original part of the building, and they have a lot of electrical issues. A lot in their work that the board awarded 3 years ago, I believe. It was right when I came on to help facilitate that process through. There were quite a bit of improvements that weren't done to the 64 building, and the last piece of that is there's a bunch of rot, and windows are single pane, so we've got a lot of air infiltration happening that need to be fixed. And the exterior exit doors need to be made accessible. They're not. So we don't have to have them for fire code that way, but it would be nice not to have 18 inches to drop down the door. So, St. Albans City School. St. Albans City School is in great condition, probably our best of all our campuses. I think a lot of that, and for those of you who were around, I think the bond project that happened in 2011, wasn't it, Martha? Something like that? Something like that really took care of a lot. They have some folding wall partitions that really need replaced that didn't get done there. The biggest issue down there is the fire alarm system heads, which is about $70,000, $80,000 worth of work, do not meet code right now. Doesn't mean they don't have a fire alarm. I don't want to get anyone anxious. It does work, but they really need to be replaced. And that was actually our second highest item across the whole campus, the whole system. And then trying to have some enclosure by the courtyard. Town school, as you can see, it's HVAC, and really an A and B wing. A lot of those are original to when those buildings were either built. The B wing, as we know, is the oldest, that central part of the gym, the old Catholic school part of it. And there was some upgrading of HVAC, but they're 25 years, and air handling units have a life of expectancy of about 20 years. So Derek's very concerned about that. And we have some safety issues that we may just fix without even going through this process of snow and ice coming off the roof. We had an employee injured pretty severely last year, so we're trying to find a way to fix that pretty quickly. The last one up here is the central office. This isn't allowed by ESSER, but if anyone wanted to see, but as many of you know have been in there, that building originally had 3 or 4 different companies. I'm looking at Martha again for the history. 4 that used that building for work, and it's really just been all kind of hodgepodge is the best word I can think of. And so because of that, we're not using the building very efficiently. There are 3 different services that come in there. There is basically no insulation in the building, and Laz has some concerns about some of the engineering, so they're looking at the structure as well. we got a good deal on the building, but it has a lot of work to be done. Where the estimate, and all these are back in the October prices, but it's about $1.1 million worth of work that needs to go into that building. It needs quite a bit. And we have looked at purchasing. We were actually quietly approached by someone about purchasing a different building for that, and we were looking at $3 to $5 million worth of cost. So it still seemed like a better alternative.
3 to 5 million to buy, or 3 to 5 million to renovate on top of the?
No, to buy, and then we would have had to renovate to configure for our use. So, which we estimated about $250,000 to $300,000. It's a pretty new building, but.
Yeah, okay, I just
So-
going to ask if there
Yeah,
are
so
considerations.
So really, this is the best option for what we have. Although it looks like a lot to put into central office, that building is sorely, and I could take you to some places that I was scared to be standing on some of the floors. So what we have right now, the summary for this right now, what you're looking at is $3.8 million from ESSER, which we've been allocating about $4 million total. If we can put more towards ESSER, we will. And 3.5 from the capital fund for a total project of about $7.4 million. Right now, the current audited capital reserve is $6.2 million with about $194,000 in progress, which means like the boiler at Fairfield, which you've approved, and a few others, and we have another one for you tonight. And I just gave you a kind of a history of the capital fund. A lot of you ask me that, and those are all the reserve, what we have left at the fund balance at the end of each year. It goes automatically to that capital. So our next steps, John, can go on to the next page, is we're working with Las Gangas, and he has consulting engineers to design the projects. We'll need to get board approval, as I said, probably in August, early September for use of capital funds. And then we need to go through a public bid process. We're looking to do this with a construction manager approach, not a general contractor, because of the timing. We have to have all construction completed by that's paid for with ESSER money, not paid for by the capital fund, but paid for by has to be completed by September 2024. And we're trying to see if we can do some phasing, because that's pretty fast right now with the construction, the availability of contractors. And that's what they said up there. So that was really quick for all of you. I'm sure I missed something. You must have some questions. I'm in it every day, so I've been through the facilities.
Is there a priority order of how it should go, or could you show it the priority?
Yeah, so we have I didn't bring it with me, we have a spreadsheet that's about 6-7 pages long that the facilities directors as a team, along with Las Gangas and Hunter, went around in October and ranked every little project that needs to be done within the buildings. And then those got grouped together to bigger projects as I started to outline those here. So for an example, in this campus here at BFA, we need HVAC in the gym, we need HVAC in the original building, BFA building, and we need HVAC controls that didn't get done in the project across the whole building. I just call that HVAC work. So it's just an easier way of kind of bundling it top level. But and if I took you through that spreadsheet, you'd see it, and they ranked them all and sorted them and said we had a 1 through 10 ranking and cut it off at about a 7 priority scale.
Thank you. Everybody else? And I assume we'll be looking at work that can be done without disruption of learning?
Yes, yeah. That's one of the reasons we're talking about this. Is there a way to get this done? And we may have some times where an example is if we were at St. Albans Town School and we're working in B wing, and they come in the summer and they say we're going to go back next summer. We're not, and we're going to replace, we have to pay for a new drop ceiling, but we may spend the year without the ceiling. Not that it's not going to hurt the students at all, the appearance is going to be there, but why put the ceiling up when we're going to have to take it back down next summer to put in the rest of the utilities?
I think they went without it at Fairfield for a couple of years.
Schools have done that. We've all managed with construction in schools at the same time, but we would rather not do it with the students around if we don't have to. I can't promise that.
Probably one of the challenges of having a sort of multi-building district is how to allocate funds between them, right? Especially looking at city school, it seems to be in pretty good operating condition,
Yeah.
right? Are cosmetic and sort of like modernization and improvement type projects, do those go through this process, or is there a completely separate process for those that might be applied to a
So-
facility that's in
Yeah.
pretty good shape?
We haven't, for the cosmetic piece, that usually gets done through the maintenance budgets during the years,
Okay.
painting, floors.
Yeah.
We're gonna be talking about a floor project that's going on here at BFA that was going through
Yep.
the budget, and we missed a little piece, that's why I'm coming to you tonight, capital. So that usually gets done that way. If we're looking for system improvements, that happens when we do these type of projects.
Okay.
So, example, we go back to city school. Their fire alarm works fine. I don't want to alarm everyone. They have a great fire alarm. It works. It does exactly what we need, and it meets the code at the time in which it was put in. We need new heads, and that'll be a system improvement for how it would respond to detection.
Okay.
And that's when this happened. And I don't know a school system that can do it outside of a capital plan piece. And many school systems can't even get to the capital plan to keep that upgraded. I'm hoping I don't have a spending plan. Martha and I have been talking about this. I wish I had a spending plan to bring you tonight to show you how we could say, do that 1.25 plan for that every year. But doing this 7.4 out of 25 million is going to take a chunk out of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're down to under $1 million that we need to do over the 20 years. But what it does, I want to be clear, it leaves out the major pieces of structural and roofs. And we think our roofs are good for that long, but I can't guarantee that.
Okay, anybody else? Questions? Yes, Beth? Oh, sorry.
Before we move on, you'll have to excuse me and Sarah, we do have to go out, which is another thing I forgot to mention about why we moved the student report up, which would be helpful for our group. We kind of discussed it, thinking with the student reps that it would be more beneficial for students to stay when it's about students, when it pertains to the high school, so. Otherwise, I think we're going to head out, but thank you so much for having us.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Have a good summer.
Enjoy.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Okay, old business, COVID update, Bill?
I don't have much for you on this. Really, like COVID, we've been concentrating on celebrations, end of the year work, so I don't have really anything to report.
Okay. Implicit bias and anti-racism training? Bill?
Again, not much more on this. We did finalize the contract negotiations for the Creative Discourse Group. We have that signed. That's in place. And as I told you last time, we have a timeline for that, and we're really looking at a fall start of school kickoff with some of the work of working with small groups in the community. Yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay. Old business C, setting goals, Grant?
Sure. We've had our first full committee meeting with the goals committee, including members from the community, to go over sort of the objectives of the committee and get everyone aligned on what progress we need to make. We have we have planning in progress for our next 3 meetings that'll take us through August, with some very, I guess, loose kind of milestones laid out for the committee over the next 6 to 8 months.
Okay. So are you coming to the board with something in August, or?
What did we say? So our next meeting is going to be, I think, our first real working meeting.
Yeah.
And the idea is to put together the groundwork and the detailed planning at the subsequent meetings to actually conduct the various forums and surveys and whatever else we decide we think we need in order to gather data, compile that data, and turn it into recommendations, not necessarily for the board, but the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And then convene the stakeholders, let them know, what we think we've heard, And then get that round of feedback, just to be able to say, yes, that's what we told you, and we agree, or they'll say, no, that's not what we said, and then we do another cycle. And at that point, we'll have something for the board, ideally this fall.
And stakeholders meeting,
Stakeholders meeting, we have a list, I don't have it
Yeah.
here with me today, it's,
everyone.
it's
Everybody.
it's everybody we could think
All
of.
the people. Okay,
Well,
just-
people, organizations,
Okay.
you know, really anybody that might care
Yeah.
about
No,
the
just
education of a
clarification.
district student.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I wasn't, not a question, just a statement. Just the work that NCTC has been doing, it just made me really think about the work there, yeah.
Yeah.
So it made me think,
I saw that.
clearly we need to
Some
get
parallels
some of
there.
your information that you gathered and prepared for your presentation, because I think it would be really super helpful for.
Working together.
Yes, yes.
Okay, anything else? Questions on that? All right, item D, A02 policy adoption, policy second reading, action. Okay, the administration seeks to approve the policy for adoption on June 15th, 2022. I have a motion on that.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Aaron, did we receive any feedback from the posting? Just good for it's just good to hear that, for the
Yep,
board to hear
nope,
that we
that's
had it
good.
posted.
Yep.
And the feedback, we've posted it for feedback.
Any questions, comments, anything? Okay, so we're looking to adopt this. All in favor for adopting AO2 policy adoption, policy second reading? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All ayes have it. It has passed. Okay, item E, D07 special education policy, second reading. The administration seeks to approve the special education policy for adoption on June 15th, 2022. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Joanne, second, is that okay? Do it second. Susan did first.
Yes.
Okay, sorry,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, they were tag teaming.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't even see.
Okay, any discussion?
And Aaron, again, did we have
Yep.
any feedback on this? No feedback.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed the discussion last time. Were there any high points that were especially?
What I said is this is something we're required to adopt
Okay.
for our special education program. And it's written by
Oh, that was from
There's
their
the
meeting.
one.
Yeah,
the SBA,
sorry.
and let's go on, all that.
Thank you.
Yep. Any discussion, any questions? Okay. All in favor of adopting D07 special education policy, second reading? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, item F, board retreat facilitator and topics discussion. I think this needs an executive session.
It could possibly. We're, as you all know, last year we worked with Mike DeWeese.
Mhm.
Mike is moving to South Carolina. He is, and I think the board enjoyed working with Mike. But we worked with Phil Gore last week, and if you wanted to discuss he is available. If you wanted to discuss him, then I would recommend to the board, I think, about executive session for a contract negotiation, because we want to talk about it. If you would like us to, Hilda and Nina and I, we organized it last year together as a team, and if you'd like us to go out and look somewhere else, we can do that as well, so.
Okay.
And if you need to talk then about building, I would recommend that.
Yeah, so we'll go into executive session, just have a conversation for personal matter or contractual discussion, so we'll just do that real quick tonight. Is that okay? We'll save that at the end. New business, side letter of agreement, holidays for full-time staff. Action is the administration seeks to approve the educational support staff side letter of agreement, holidays for full-time staff for FY23.
I have to first apologize to the negotiating team for ESP. I missed this in my support of you for the negotiations for the ESP. There were 2 federal holidays. One was new last year that we caught on that happened on the 18th of 2021, which was Juneteenth. And I've already sent out a memo to all the staff for this year saying that's a day off. But this is recognizing with the association that for next academic year, those 2, which would be additional days, there's no additional costs to the organization. And then we can bring that into negotiations next fall.
Okay, we just need a motion.
So moved.
Thanks, Ryer. A second? Joanna, thank you. Okay, any discussion? Questions? All right, all in favor for the side letter of agreement for holidays for full-time staff? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, motion passes. Under new business, item B, capital funds for BFA asbestos abatement. Bill?
Thanks. I know this is kind of last minute. We were working in this building to replace flooring, as you can see in the memo that I gave you, in many rooms over in the south building. And all the flooring was purchased, but the asbestos abatement was not. And we have asbestos adhesive that is in those rooms. And we're getting a little tight on this year's budget, so we were thinking that I wanted to come and ask you, Martha and I talked about this, the best way to solve this was to, for the board to approve capital money to have that asbestos abatement done. I don't know, Martha, have I missed anything from our discussions?
No, that's basically it. We just want to make sure this project can continue as we had it scheduled, and this was one piece that we need to have done ASAP.
And you have people to do that already?
Yeah, they're all lined up.
They're all lined up.
There's a little reversal of action here, but we're taking care of that.
So what do you need, do we need to?
I need the board to approve the authorization of capital funds for a total of $55,768.
This is just for one room?
No,
No.
you'll see there's
For all
many
of us.
rooms. There's the band room, there's A116 through 120,
Oh.
which is the engineering
Now I
classroom.
see it, sorry.
And locations C15A, C105, 105A, 106, which is all down by the hospital.
Yep.
We're actually getting to much more industry standard in the tech center. But we should have. That too.
Do we need to be specific in the motion?
I just need that you approve, that you authorize the $55,768.
Okay, so we just need.
From the capital funds, yeah, we need a motion.
Okay. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the capital for $55,768 for the BFA asbestos abatement.
So moved.
Thanks, Jack. Is there a second?
A second.
Oh, thanks, Susan. Okay, any discussion? More discussion? All for it?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? You have the money. It's approved.
Thank you very much. It's much appreciated.
Okay, item C under new business, district liaison officer contract renewal.
Yep.
Bill?
So as you know and have requested, in November and March, we brought you reports on the district liaison officer and how that work has been going. In the past few weeks, it's been invaluable for my piece, I would say. And it has been all year, but we just had a few times where we've needed them in the past couple of weeks. And this is taking the same contract that we had before and renewing it for next year.
You just needed a motion to.
I need a motion to approve it and
Okay.
award it to St. Albans Schools.
Great. Looking for a motion to award the contract, renewal contract to St. Albans Police for an upcoming school year. I need a motion for that. Susan? I need a second.
Second.
Second, Jack. Okay. Any other discussion, questions?
Yeah, I had a discussion. I'm going to vote against the motion, and that's because I honestly feel that this program is inadequate. I believe in the SRO program, so I'm going to vote against the motion.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Okay, all in favor?
we have more.
Oh,
More
sorry.
discussion.
Sorry.
And Ryer as well.
Yep.
My question, Bill, is going, you created this, or you adapted this contract. Now that we've had it in place for a year, is there anything, have you gone through with different administrators, the different aspects of the contract to see if there's any gaps or anything that you wanted to modify?
So I haven't reviewed with the administrators. I will tell you that we have talked a lot about the DLO and the services the DLO provide. And what I have heard across the board is that they're doing that work. They're doing the work that we've asked them to do.
Okay.
And there's some times we really needed them, and there's times that they brought, when they knew it wasn't for them, but it was for the embedded NCSS work for others. And I think all those decisions have been really appropriate.
Yeah, so my only request is that, there's just a conversation, making sure that you've got everything that you need in your contract, making sure that you're getting all of the services that you're looking for. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know when this went out. I think I just got it today. And I wasn't on the board last year, so I was not familiar with it. And I've been looking for it. So I think it got into the packet today, maybe last night. So I might just abstain because I'm not super familiar with it. So I can't really ask a lot of questions. But one thing I did notice going through it was I didn't notice, and maybe it's there, but I did notice that there's some teaching and schoolwork involved in it, and so I didn't see anywhere where it states what we're requiring of the district liaison officer. So like what training we want them to have, what sort of interest in terms of like anti-bias, anti-racism training. That's something we're going through right now, so maybe that's something we can look at in the future. But I just didn't see anything where we're clarifying what we're expecting the person who's doing this work to be trained in or ready to deal with. And that's just a question I had.
On page 5.
I was going to say.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, like I said, I just saw it today, and so I was, yeah, thank you.
I have a question, well, not a question, but I definitely have spoken to some of the staff members who were concerned with this particular program and thought that we needed more than what we have at this moment. I know there has been some big concerns. So, I as well believe in the SRO program, and I think maybe looking back at that is something that we should be doing. So I just want to put that out there.
Is this time sensitive?
Yes. We will do this. I'm sorry to bring it that way too. Yeah. Okay.
Any other discussions? Questions? Okay, motion on the floor to renew the district liaison officer contract renewal for next upcoming school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Is that Katie?
Yep.
So what do we have, what is that? Do with
I'll
abstention, sorry, Ryan.
No, that's good.
What is that? That's what you print, right?
4 yeses. 4.5 yeses. Hold on, let me count. 2, 3, 4. 4. Because I'm getting, make sure I get the half votes right.
Yeah.
4 yes, 2 no.
Yeah.
Yeses have it.
The numbers side of the way.
Yep, yeses have it, so,
4, 2, 1.
yep. So we will renew the contract for next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8D, grant, applying for a grant.
Yeah.
Bill?
Classes here. The nurses, the Maple Run nurses came to me Monday, I believe. I'm looking at Brett because I came to the both of them. Was it Monday they contacted us, I believe?
I lose track of time.
I'm close enough, right?
It's
And so I didn't meet the packet, so I'm sorry about this, but they they were told by the Department of Health that there's a opportunity to apply for money to support nurse leadership in schools. And it's a competitive grant, and I need to let you know, I don't need any action for it, but I just need to let you know they're going to do it. They have to do it by June 30th. And so they're going to look to have a way of helping their nurse colleague, everyone in the system, have it'd be one FTE, a health assistant, but supporting them to come out and do work on leadership that they can provide to the school and the health arena. And I believe from reading the grant, the quick skim of the grant, so I don't want to quote me, but I believe it's ESSER money is where this is coming from, that the health department has access to.
It's a competitive grant, so schools are
Have
the
to compete.
grantee, and...
So no, the schools compete among each other.
Yeah.
For up to $79,000. There's, I think it's 5 or 6 awards in the state. It's not many.
Okay.
Part of their process that they told me Monday was that the board needed to be informed that we're applying for it. I don't need you to take any action.
Right, but what do they get?
They can do whatever they think that will help to improve nursing leadership. And so they're trying to find a way for them to be more coordinated across Maplewood and how they do that.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
And Val, Lipka, and Janessa Deal are leading this up for the supervisory meeting. And I said, I'm all for it if you guys can write it.
Right.
You need to get the support of figuring out the dollars from central office so we make sure we're applying for what we can actually pull on.
No match or anything?
There's no match. I asked them about that today. I said, I want to be clear because I figured I would get that question.
So they're looking for up to $79,000 from the ESSER funds?
From the Department of Health. And I believe that's where they're getting money. The state has done in many areas where there's ESSER money and they're putting out competitive grants to get it spent. So I just need to let you know.
Yep, thank you. Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to them. And I want to thank Val and Janessa for stepping up and taking the lead and saying, we're going to do this.
Do they need any letters of support or anything like that?
I think they're fine with what they need.
Okay.
I don't think it's that type, it's more of what are you going to do and how's that going to provide increased nurse leadership? And they have a plan.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Any other questions about that? Okay. Did you, sorry?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. Okay, other business. Warrants. The administration seeks a motion to approve the warrants, acknowledging that passage of this motion will act as authorization and signature of any individual board members participating remotely. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
And I will bring them to the end of the table. So
Was that the warrants?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard the whole thing.
And did you motion down there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I yelled loudly. You didn't hear me?
I heard
You're
you.
going to pass it out. Great.
Here.
Start down there and make them.
Yep, thank you. Okay. Superintendent report?
Yes. First, I'd like to thank all the board members who came to some of our celebrations this past 2 weeks. It's one of those weeks where it's a lot of work, a lot of effort. I have to thank my leadership team colleagues and the students for really doing all that effort. I get to watch their great work. But thank you for coming in and being part of that. It meant a lot. I know to all the leadership team members, they said that it's just so rewarding to think of all the things that have happened. From little to kindergarten graduation, which isn't so little to some parents and kids, but it's small in numbers sometimes, all the way up to the BFA, 250 students walking across the stage. And Brett gave you a commencement program if you can get one, and thank you all for being part of that. It's just a reminder of all the terrific work our students do. Sometimes we get into problem solving and we forget all the positive things that are happening around here. It's just a nice way to end the year with all that. So that's what I really have for you. That's been my reflection. You may have seen it, I sent a survey out to staff just asking them about what are the good things that have happened. There have been many good things in the pandemic and we need to try to collect those. and then where are areas that still need improvement. And as I said in my email, nothing's too small, nothing's too big. And John told me, I haven't even looked at the survey, but it was already being populated about an hour after, so. I wish I could have done it. I didn't say this in my email. I wish I could have had the time to go around. I'm gonna try to figure this out next year to be in buildings and hear that. That's what I have for you.
Thank you. Board announcements, I just have a couple myself, if you don't mind. So our meeting for July is at Collins Pearly, July 7th, and we will be having a cookout, and Tim will be hosting, so just FYI there. Also, I also wanted to thank, I did go to city school graduation. It was great. They did a great job, in and out in 40 minutes, which was pretty cool. I mean, wow. Joan was, she was right on, and everybody was happy, and because it was hot. But I wanted to thank you. It was great. It was a great experience. Thank you. Anything else want to go?
I just did the BFA. I thought it was outside. It was large. It was outstanding. Very well organized.
Well, since we're on it, I did town. It was beautiful day, beautiful setting. Yeah, they did a great job. A little bit longer than those two, but it was fine.
Yeah, I was at Fairfield. We were outside, it was beautiful, but it was longer
Yeah.
than 40 minutes, and
Yeah.
I think, you know, a fraction of the students. But it was lovely.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I did NCTC, and it was really just a wonderful thing. Leanne, where my dad's a president of a technical school, and so I really appreciate that kind of work, and it's something that I've always learned to value. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And also, the Voyagers at City School today did like a little, I called it a little Dundies presentation, where everyone got like a little awards and stuff, and so that's 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. But it was really good. So I just want to give a little shout out to Miss Satow, Bashaw, and Chisholm for that, because it was really fun. It was one of those things I feel like we've been missing out on that kind of stuff for like years now, and that was just a nice little insight into every single kid in that program. So.
And I appreciate you calling it the Dundies. I'm just going to throw that out there.
What was on the menu at NCTC?
Oh, gosh.
And did your wife like it?
Yeah, no, it was a winner for me. And I joked because we sat with Alicia Sawyer, and I sat with Ben Chipinelli, so it was kind of like a little school board. Ben's on the Georgia school board, but it was like a little school board table. But it was good. It was a salad, it was a chicken breast, and there was an amazing like rhubarb dessert. So being a Minnesotan, I rhubarb anything, I'll say.
Anybody else?
I just have a quick question. Did you say that next school board meeting is on July 7th?
Yeah.
Or 6th?
It may be 6th, it's the Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday.
So we
All
may
right.
have said the wrong date there. I may have
He
given.
gave me the wrong date.
I
just was making
gave Nina the wrong date as we were prepping for this, so it's 6th.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So he got it wrong. I didn't give you.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yep, again.
It's a Wednesday, it's our normal Wednesday,
Okay.
but it's a cookout,
Yep.
so come hungry, Thames City, make a bunch of food. And the Collins Pearly nonprofit board will be there as well.
Nice.
That dinner list.
Okay, let's see, agenda for future meetings, board member half votes, BFA school safety worker and proficiency grading, and we are going to have an executive session, so we will have you turn.
Next time?
Huh?
Next time or right now?
Right now.
Okay, can I
Sorry.
add something? Can I make a question or about?
Sure.
Is there a way that we can follow up to Jason's question about?
Yeah, so I wrote myself a to-do.
Okay.
To contact Jason
Yeah,
and
okay,
to have a
good.
conversation.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
I should have said that right after.
All right.
When something like that happens, Susan, from our discussion last time, I do this.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, it's a good point, Susan.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay,
We
so,
could probably move into the project space.
okay, could we probably do that?
We don't need the camera and all
Okay.
that, they need to
All right,
tear
so
down.
we'll be right back, and we have an action after.
No, we don't need it, there's no action.
Okay, so then you can, I guess, pack up.
Do you guys not normally vote to enter executive
Yeah,
session?
you need to vote to
Yeah,
enter.
Oh, sorry, yep, tell I don't do this right. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Make that motion.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we're in executive session.